What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 52 of Week in Review. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about the movie The Upside. We're going to talk about one limited edition item. I have a really fun announcement for you, and we look forward to this week's new releases. This week's movie is The Upside, which is a movie that I was surprised at how much I enjoyed. And I think that even though I really liked it, this is a movie that so easily could have been done wrong and been like just a total mess. But I think it's actually a pretty incredible feat that they were able to pull it off and make as good of a movie as they did. And I think that starts with the cast. I think that Bryan Cranston, Kevin Hart, and Nicole Kidman, who I don't know if I've ever actually seen in a movie. I was having this conversation with my mom after the movie, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I know who Nicole Kidman is. Like, I understand her as a person. I think she was in Batman Forever, but I don't think I've ever seen any of the movies that she's ever been in. And then I was looking at her filmography, and I was like, I would never watch like any of these movies. That's like not like a shot at her or anything. She's doing what she wants to do. Totally cool, awesome. It's just not anything that really spoke to me, except for The Destroyer, which never made it here. So maybe this is the turning point in Sean's love affair of Nicole Kidman. I don't have one, so I guess the start of I don't know. Kesha's really hard to beat. I think Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart have a really good chemistry between the two of them, and I think their scenes are very interesting. It also is kind of nice to see Kevin Hart do something a little bit different than his typical movies. He gets to express a little more, or like emote a little bit more, show a little bit more range, and it makes for an overall like more enjoyable experience, because not only could this like tonally be handled weird and feel like undeservedly mushy or like kind of like emotionally like manipulative of like, oh, you're supposed to feel sad but you don't actually feel sad, you're like having a reaction but you're like, I don't feel like this is genuine or earned, it's just kind of there. But because of the way they might have used Kevin Hart, because of the movies he's been in the past, it could have tried to come off as like he's trying really hard to make this kind of more serious subject matter really funny, and I don't know how well that would have meshed with, I mean, this hypothetical, like, we're making like a Kevin Hart comedy that happens to have some serious undertones. The fact that it's flipped and the fact that it is a more serious story actually really helps. It kind of reminds me of Stranger Than Fiction. I don't think the ads necessarily do this particular movie justice on just how, like, eloquent, I guess, they handle some of the situations. They don't handle any of the situations in great depth, and a lot of it kind of feels like it's there, but they could have gone and done more. And what's even weirder about that kind of thought process is there are like 4 or 5 plot points where like one of the characters is like kind of portrayed as suicidal at one point, and they kind of just glaze over it. They never really explain how or why exactly people make the decisions they make to make changes in their own lives. And normally, for me at least, those would be like glaring criticisms of, like, I'd walk out of this movie, like Bohemian Rhapsody is a great example of, like, they talk about 14 different things, none of them go deep enough, and I thought the movie suffered because of it. But I don't think that's what this movie is about. What this movie is about to me is the relationship between Kevin Hart's character and Bryan Cranston's character, and how they grow and learn from each other. And yeah, like, you know, none of it's super deep. That's totally fine. The chemistry really hits, and the acting is really good, and I don't know. It was a movie that clicked with me, and as I was watching, I was like, man, I really enjoy this. The emotional punches worked because I cared about the characters. That's why I'm saying, like, it's so easy for this to be like emotionally like kind of manipulative, in that like there's a kid involved, and I think that's really easy for filmmakers to put in and be like, oh, you need to be sad because there's a kid involved. No, I care that the kid's upset because I understand that Dell is like, Kevin Hart's character Dell is like kind of a piece of shit, but he sometimes has his heart in the right place enough to where you're rooting for him. Like, you see him trying. It may not be for the right reasons or reasons that you agree with necessarily, but it's there. There's that glimmer, there's that hint. And likewise, like, Bryan Cranston's character kind of comes off as a bit of a dick, or maybe has ulterior motives, but like, he shows enough care and understanding for you to be like, okay, like, you're not the nicest person in the universe, but I don't like totally hate you. And that's, I don't know, it's just, it does such a good job. And going back to the Stranger Than Fiction thing, like, that movie was advertised as like a straight comedy, Stranger Than Fiction was, and it's not. And this movie seems to be advertised as much more of a comedy, and it's not. It deals with more serious subject matter. There are only like 2 or 3 scenes maybe where it's like very much a, hey, this is a comedic scene, and it's very obvious. I think this movie also has a really great pace. Even if I think it starts off the wrong way. And this movie does something that a lot of movies and even some video games do, where it shows a specific scene and then cuts back to, like, I think this one's 6 months earlier. And why that sucks is because the scene that's shown removes any sort of suspense once a specific decision is made later in the movie. Like, something happens, you go, oh, this scene hasn't come back into play that they showed at the beginning. I already know what's going to happen. I don't necessarily know how it's going to happen, but I know that it is going to happen. Aside from maybe the opening stumbling block, the rest of the movie proceeds at a pretty good clip. Problems are set up, they're taken care of, sometimes maybe a little too easily, but that's totally fine. Again, this isn't a movie necessarily about, like, that. It's about two people learning from each other and improving each other's lives. And that's what I took away from this particular movie. And I think that's what it does a good job at. There's one scene in particular, one situation in particular that I thought played out in a very sweet way that's, like, kind of evil, but, like, really nice at the same time, and they balance that really well. Of one person has just a little bit more information than the other person does, and the way it's used against them I thought was very entertaining. This movie is definitely designed for a broad audience, and I think a majority of them will enjoy this movie. I would recommend going and checking it out. Bryan Cranston's great in the lead. Kevin Hart is surprisingly good, doing a different type of role than what I'm used to seeing him in. Nicole Kidman's very good, even though I don't think I've ever seen her in another movie that's not called Batman Forever. The pacing's good. It's a very sweet, nice, uplifting movie, and I think it's worthy of your time. This week's limited edition item may look familiar because I may have already shown 2 of them on this particular show, but this one actually qualifies, according to Amazon, actually qualifies as, like, limited edition, and it's this really cool red Xbox One Duke controller, and I've already opened 2 of them, and they're great. And at some point, like, they announced this, or I saw that they were talking about it on Twitter, and I was like, I'm already 2 in. What's another one? What's a third? No big deal. This one, from what I can tell, I've really only been able to find on Amazon, which is kind of weird. I saw it at, like, a local game store yesterday, but I haven't seen it at, like, a GameStop or, like, a Best Buy or anything. That's more common, so that's kind of interesting. So we'll crack it open in case you haven't seen the other 2 episodes in case you haven't seen the other 2 episodes. What am I sticking this on? There we go. There's a sticker. Put that right there. I love these Hyperkin Dukes. They're so dumb, but they're basically just, like, $70 pieces of nostalgia, which is kind of weird that I have, like, a nostalgia for a controller this big for a console that I never really owned. But here we are, 3 controllers in. So, just like the others, pops off on the top. I'm going to be a pro, what do they call it? Controller unboxer. I'm going to do, like, sweet speed runs of it and be like, oh, this one's not quite my personal best, but I don't know where I'm going with that. There was just a bunch of AGDQ that I watched. So I watched so much AGDQ. It was a lot. The Mario Odyssey run was incredibly good. So here you go. I like that the green and the red are both that, like, iridescent. It doesn't sound right. There's the backside for you, but I like that you can see inside of it. It reminds me of the Game Boy Pocket that my brother had when we were kids. He had the clear see-through one, and it reminds me of the incredible Nintendo 64s they released. I always wanted that jungle green, but never had the opportunity to get it. We had just a regular black Xbox. Thinking about Xbox, talking about Nintendo, regular plain black Nintendo 64. Man, I'm all over the map. This is really neat. What did I say? I said something weird in the first one. The second one. When they did the green one, I said something like, does this need to exist? No. Am I glad it does? Absolutely. And I don't know. It looks pretty cool. Like, obviously. It does the same thing that the other one does. Oops. Has this controller cord. The only knock I would give these controllers is that they are strictly wired, but we have it here. We'll pop that in here, and then we will, there's a USB somewhere, hang on, get it in frame, find the USB, find it, flip it upside down, correct ways, where, there it is. When you plug it in, vibrates, and gives you, shout out to my computer making a bunch of noise, bam, gives you the original Xbox startup. Will you stop, please, making a bunch of noise? So there you go. It's ready to use on my laptop. I think it may have frozen my laptop. But there you go. There's the Xbox One Hyperkin Duke controller. Feels good, still huge. The buttons are still like kind of like a little small and a little more top to bottom. The white and black buttons I don't think actually do anything. I think they're just there because they were there on the original controller. You have like start and select, the D-pad, two control sticks. The only difference obviously being the left bumper and the right bumper buttons for a more current Xbox design. Xbox One, Xbox 360 both have the bumper buttons. Yeah, I don't know. This is really cool. It looks very Christmassy with the green one, and it has that sweet startup. I didn't realize my laptop wasn't muted, so it like made a bunch of noise, so that's very exciting. But yeah, there it is. There you have it. It's a very cool piece of hardware that I now own 3 of. So if you could put out a 4th one, that'd be great, and I can have an original 4-player Halo nostalgia trip. So that would be cool. They posted a picture of like an orange one that looks really, really neat. You gonna put that out at any point, or did I miss the boat? Who knows? Another Hyperkin. Find it on Amazon. This one actually technically qualifies as a limited edition, unlike the other 2, which are more readily available. So there it is. There's our first. Is it our first? I don't remember. Have I had a limited edition item yet? Should probably check that. Potentially the first limited edition item of the year. That's a good start. This week I have a very cool announcement that I'm very excited to share with you. I love Mascot games. One of the streamers that I follow over on twitch.tv/brownman has done some college football mascot tournaments in the past, and I think that that's a really fun and interesting idea. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, I should do like my own like big mascot tournament. But if I did it in football, I felt like I was kind of like ripping off the idea like a little bit too much, and I wasn't putting enough of my own spin on it. And I was thinking about it, and like EA Sports, they did like Madden and NBA Live back in the day. Those don't have mascot modes. NCAA football's out because I don't want to rip too much on the idea. Oh, I like March Madness. They have a March Madness series that might have something fun that I can do with that. But how can I like still put my own spin on it? Well, the answer is pretty obvious. I really enjoy March Madness, and I really enjoy making a bracket. Why not have a giant 64-team mascot tournament where you, the viewer, can fill out your own bracket and we have a competition? So that's what's going to happen. If you head on over to twitch.tv/Shoutout, which is the name I go by on pretty much every platform at this point, except for Xbox Live, because I started that one earlier. Doesn't matter. You don't need the history of my gamer tags and PSN profile names and Instagrams and all that fancy stuff. Twitch.tv/Shoutout on March 2nd. We're going to do it. You're going to be able to watch live as the computer plays on the highest difficulty mascot games in March Madness NCAA, what the hell is the title of the game? NCAA March Madness 2005. And it's going to be really, really awesome. How do you fill out a bracket? Well, it's actually pretty simple. You head on over to challonge.com. That's CHALLONGE.com/ and this is inconvenient, but the link will be in the description below. W6ILE7J9. And it will bring you to this page right here. And what you'll do is you'll just go create a prediction. You can see the whole bracket there. And it's actually really simple. You just click whichever team you want. Every team is a mascot team. Ratings don't matter. Rankings don't matter. It's just a whole smorgasbord, a whole mess of goofy looking mascots playing basketball. So pick whoever you want to win the game. So like obviously I want Washington State to beat Washington. That's going to be our tip-off game on March 2nd. You can pick like Gonzaga or Syracuse, Big Orange, if you really want that. But you'll pick every single round all the way down to the finals. Once you have 2 finals contestants, I just advanced Washington State and Michigan State all the way through just to demonstrate this next part. You'll go down here and pick a winner. I picked Washington State. Enter your name in your prediction or your Twitter handle prediction, whatever you feel comfortable with, into your email, and then hit submit, and you will be ready to roll for the Mascot tournament. It's going to tip off on March 2nd over on twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully we can get a lot of entrants into it, so please go fill out your bracket. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about this. Finally, on this week's show, we'll look forward to this week's new releases. Once Upon a Deadpool is out on Blu-ray, and then there wasn't anything in theaters. I know Glass comes out this week, but I don't really care about Glass at all. But there are quite a few games hitting various systems this week. Farm Together hits Xbox One, which is like a farming simulator game. You play as play co-op. I guess time passes even when you're offline, so you can make progress no matter what. So that's kind of interesting. It looks pretty cool. Planet RIX-13 hits both Xbox One and PlayStation 4. It looks like it's the first easy completion of 2019. One of the videos I saw, I think, had a runtime of about 20 minutes. So if you want, I believe it has a platinum and it has a full 1,000 gamer score. So if you want that, it's like $5. So check that out. The Walking Dead episode 3, season 4 episode 3 hits after a bunch of drama with Skybound or Telltale shutting down and shuttering. Skybound came in, saved the game, so we're getting episode 3. That's on both Xbox One and PlayStation 4. And then Y2K, a postmodern RPG, which I first learned about during the Kinda Funny Games showcase, hits on the PlayStation 4. Looks pretty cool. I'm not a super big RPG guy, but this looked kind of Paper Mario-y-ish. I don't know. The trailer was interesting enough to grab my attention, and from the gameplay I've seen, it's not quite as, what's the word? It doesn't seem as complex as some of the other RPGs. So, I don't know. It looked kind of interesting. Check that out on PlayStation 4. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. If you like the content, scroll on down, hit that subscribe button, and then scroll on down a little bit more, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of the Upside. Let me know if you think it's dumb that I bought a 3rd Hyperkin Duke controller, and let me know if you filled out your bracket, which again kicks off on March 2nd over on twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex. Again, that address is challonge.com, CHALLONGE.com/W6ILE7J9. That's an inconvenient address. It'll be down in the description below. I hope a lot of people fill out brackets. I'm very excited about it. Ran a test tournament, and it was a lot of fun. I think the bracket element adds something to it. It adds like man, I really have a reason to root for this, even if I don't like the college Vanderbilt. So there you go. Be sure to check back every Tuesday for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week.